All right, everybody. Hey, guess what? It is Saturday, May 2nd, 2020, and I'm not going to be talking much today because I'm tired as hell. So, Ed, take it away.
Hey, Al, we'd like to thank you again for joining us. It is a pleasure. We are having a lot of fun getting this information out as I'm running for Lincoln County Commissioner. And I'm watching people scramble and all these other people that are running against me. They're spending tens of thousands of dollars. Big banners are putting up all around the highways and stuff. But I haven't got to that point to question it. I will be getting there because I think that's going to have to be done because I think that is a fun one to do coming up. Because that one has to be done. Because it just amazes me that this structure is going on, and, you know, we've got the birth certificate down, we've got the funding, we know what they're doing with the money, we got the tracking numbers, and so, you know, they can't run and hide anymore. And so this is the one thing I am literally putting out right now as I'm talking to you, passing this around on new.org trackers, recall Kate Brown, Civil War of 1866, and new.org trackers. So we encourage you to take a look at this. Now, I'm going to be putting a couple ballot measures coming up here for the state of Oregon. And one of them is going to be for grand juries, and that means they have to be registered with the 1938 Foreign Registration Act, and any and all elected and public employees and contractors will have to file that they're not part of it. So that means they can't be on a grand jury. So the only way to start doing this is use their own material and their own structure against them. And I see this going on, and I'm doing this, and I'm watching these guys scurry. I had a long conversation with a newspaper reporter yesterday, and then he's trying to bullshit me primarily, telling me I never knew, he never knew about this, and, you know, he's been a newspaper writer for 35 years, and I said, yeah, I know. We had this conversation, and when I told you what was going on, you laughed at me. You know, oh, no, Ed, I would never do that. You know, I really always hate these guys who are such bullshitters. You know, they do this crap, and then they wonder why our country's gone in the handbasket we are, because these are the writers that are writing these stories that are not even telling the truth to the children. You know, and it's really sad. It's really sad. These people are not telling the truth to the children. And see, once you start comprehending how all this bullshit works, it comes into place. You know, Susan O'Connor made a public announcement dealing with the bar announcement with that, with the fraud and the corruption. And like I said, you know, these things are out there. I encourage you to read them. We put them up. We do pass these things out. And so I want to make sure that you guys get an opportunity to read this stuff. You know, and the other point, for those who have done that, please, you know, when you're over to Eastern Oregon, I mean, on the East Coast, Florida, Georgia, and all that, look at the clock. Don't call me till 1 o'clock your time. You know, when you call me at 8:30 or 8 o'clock or 7:30, you're waking me up, and I can't go back to sleep, and I mean, my whole day's shot at that point. So it's not, you know, I mean, shit happens, you know, I get that. You know, people get whims, they do what they do, you know, we can't argue that because it happens, it's life. But, you know, just trying to be a little more courtesy, thought before you make some judgment calls on those type of things. So, but anyhow, dealing with that, I want to get into the birth certificate bond. We've got the tracking numbers. They're resetting the books. And I encourage you, if you don't know what I mean, reset, type it in on the internet and read what it comes for a corporation resetting or resetting their books under bankruptcy law. Because what they're doing is they're bankrupt the system of all your taxes, and then they're just writing it off. And then they got those digits they're planning into another account. CAFA 1, Walter Berrien, does a wonderful history on that stuff. I encourage you to take a look at his stuff, print it off, and read it, because the man spent years putting that together to walk you through how the codes and all that work for the public accounts. You know, and that's the one thing they don't want you to know about the public accounts. And so that's the one thing you've got to start paying attention to this and then file your paperwork. You know, because if you don't file your paperwork, you don't have a chance. And this is the one thing that people go, well, why should I file, Ed? Well, number one comes down to the circumstances. You have to prove you're lawful. Read the foundation. People go, I'm born here, and the crap that Nancy Pelosi's talking about. You got to, what the hell? I just got knocked off again. Only posted three posts. Okay. Sorry about that.
Ed. So you're saying you've been edited?
Yes. Yes, and these posts I was posting on our website. I wasn't posting it on anybody else's page or anything. Okay, so I'm being quite edited into politics because that means the local people running against is filing on Facebook against me to shut me up. Of course, that wouldn't happen in politics. But anyhow, like I said, with the Capital One reports and look at this stuff, download it, because when you start going in, you start going your birth certificate bond and all that, this is how it all correlates. This is how it all comes together. So once you see how it all comes together, you know, it's right on. But the other point is, don't get mixed up with these people that are trying to say the Morse laws are the, you know, the law of this country and the Moors. It's bullshit. Treaty orders are putting this crap out, and it's like the Indian treaties. You don't come to our country and say that you have a right. That's like the Mexicans putting up their flag and say, here we are. You know, anybody else. Our forefathers wrote the Constitution, and they were immigrants that came to this country to protect you. So when you get these idiots out there talking about the Moors and we're doing this, and I mean, these people send this stuff to me, and it's like, you know, I don't deal with the Moors. I do not have a concept in believing in, you know, Sharia law. So, I mean, you know, take it and burn it. So, but anyhow, I mean, you know, if you guys don't start following through with that stuff, you're going to find out what it's really going to be like to have everything lost. And so we are losing that. I mean, we're under the martial law right now. And so anyhow, martial law is limited. No person can in any case be subject to a law martial or any other pains or penalties by virtue of that law, except those employees in the Army, Navy are exempt from martial law. This is the one thing, you know, and this is one thing that people, you know, what do they call that? I'm in the militia. Who's militia? If you're in the state militia, you work for the state government. That's your senator, your congressman, your, governor. So learn what it means. You know, people say, oh, the militia is going to protect you. No, they called in the militia. That's called the National Guard. Learn, because the militia has no title when it comes to the people. We didn't have a militia when we fought the Civil War. We didn't have a militia when we fought the Indian-Spanish War. And we fought the Redcoats, and we didn't have a militia, but they gave us a title. We don't want their titles. So this is the one thing about what they're doing with martial law, because we're living this. And this was in Senate bills. And this bill I'm going to be posting up here. It'll be in the emails. It'll be on the front page of my emails going out, seeing that they knocked me off Facebook. I might be able to put it on my front page. Excuse me. But this is what this goes back to 1784. So, and it's reading it because it follows under the militia. It puts you under the structure under military order. And see, that's the one thing that people are not comprehending, and they're like, you know, they're doing this and they're doing that. Yeah, they're putting you under military order. So that's why I'm a non-combatant. I don't want to be in their war. I'm not here for them. I'm not here for their, war for them to make money off of me. I'm not here for that. That's good. At least that one posted on my wall. So when you go to Edward Johnston on Facebook, that's up there. Read the militia structure. Because that's what I'm saying is people are not sitting there educating people in the real manner. Everybody's arguing on stuff they don't even know what they're talking about. And I've been listening to that all week with a lot of people, a lot of phone calls this last week. And I'm still, doing some of this because, I'm still running for office. But it's like, pay attention, the property tax exemption. And that's the other point that I want to get people. I'm going to try to put together, I'm doing a deal with ballot measure on that for the state of Oregon. I want to do a ballot measure for the state of Oregon on that and get that at least put in Lincoln County here in the next 10 days. I'm looking at doing 4 ballot titles. So then once I get those filed on that way, what would that be? The clerk would have to prove that they don't have a conflict of interest in a trial or jury. It's seeing that they don't go by their own laws, their own structure that they're supposed to go by. Well, we're going to have to put it for the vote of the people and going, here it is. Here's the treason. Here's the complications. Here's what they did. So, this is the saddest part that we have to do it. And please don't give me religion because when you see God, let him handle it. We haven't seen him do nothing yet. So that's why we're doing our job. This is where it comes down to. Don't get confused in riddles. And that's one thing that these religious people, that's all they do is talk in riddles. So, and we did put up dealing with the Title 28.3002. They finally did put the structure up on the YouTube channels, and the court cases came up where the Bankruptcy Act in 1933 is owed to the natives 100%. So, and that's the point. You've got to start putting this stuff together when you start putting this, and you're putting it in, because when we're protecting our children, you're protecting your bloodline. If we don't know how to can, we got to sit there and start educating people canning. That's the one thing in my campaign I've already brought up. We need to get auto shop put back in. We need to get the, typing classes put back in. We need to make sure home ec is put back in. We need to make sure that wood cutting is put back in. See, they took away all of our structure so that way they put us on the system for this thing to happen, and this was predicted. This was not just an accident. See, this stuff that you're going through and we're living right now, this is not an accident. I was telling everybody this years ago. That's why I put in my Senate bills in the 2000s when I was up at the Capitol. Because I knew this was coming down the pike. Everybody knew it was coming down the pike in the political arena. So when people are sitting there shocked, I just have a lot of difficulties when they're shocked. So on private property, they cannot tax private property. So I'll be putting that together here in the next few days. I've still got to get another 300 to 400 emails out in the next 30 hours. And then I'll start jumping on the petitions. But I want to get another 300 emails out through my county. And anybody could help out pass on the information to anybody on the areas on the West Coast. Because we can start getting this passed out and people start reading what the actual structure is and why they're closed down and why they're destroying their business so they can bring the Chinese in. I'm like, come on. They're not changing anything. That's the one thing. They already have the written plan. So also, too, let's not forget all government officials, including state legislators, congressmen, anybody who works for your public employees, the city, mayor, county, are bounded by the Constitution and must not create de facto laws like they're doing, the statutes. So that's the point. We're going to put that into the petition, too. And then that way I can put the charges in that, and then we're doing that. Because, it's the same thing when I voted, had the school board recalled out. And then, like I said, when you're doing your stuff, don't forget D.C. Office of Zoning, D.C. Code Enforcement. Washington, D.C. Code Enforcement, all that runs your city, county, and state. And so when you start realizing how these things have that much effect on how your city and county and state have, that's like when you register your child. You register it and you're giving it to the State Attorney Bar Association. And so when you know who owns the state, like we know who owns the state of Oregon, that's Dexter Johnson right now, who owns the patent on it. And that's the other thing you want to put in your Freedom Information Act. So when you get a court case of stuff, you start putting in your Freedom Information Act. You want to know if they're filed. You want to know if they got registration. Of course, they're going to some of them tell you no, and then that's where you have to go start filing in the higher courts, and then you have to file in Washington, D.C. But that's one of the things that when you do anything on the case, always file in Washington, D.C. once you start it right now, because you got to keep the pressure on this. They are getting it, we're seeing changes. This reset martial law, this was not an accident. So when people say, oh, it was an accident or all this stuff, it was not an accident. It was to depopulate, put fear in the general public, and that way they got fear. Because anytime that they could come up in the future and say, boo, boo, everybody goes running to their homes, and the fear factor just took over them. So we're living that right now. This is not a joke how we're doing. And all these people are saying, yeah, we need to get out and start walking. And that's, And the main thing is the state of Oregon and Oregon State Constitution and the rest of the constitutions are guaranteed a republic. Not a Republican, not a Democrat, nothing but a republic. And a republic means that the only one who can file criminal complaints is the injured party, or a benefactor of the injured party. Lawyers and attorneys and judges and all them can't file any type of paperwork like that. It's a federal crime for them to do it. And remember, they all need to be registered under the Fair Act of 1938. So, and that's the one thing I do recommend when you're putting your court cases in and you're writing your circumstances: non-combatant, civilian, non-belligerent, lawful bloodline native. And I've got 48 states united is what I put in my stuff. Alaska and Hawaii is not part of the United States. So when you're starting to put this stuff together, and we've got this stuff working out, now we got the other stuff that we can put in for the filings coming up on their tax structure, and that's a 4506A form. And if you don't have a copy, make sure you copy some of these forms and put them in a file, because the Democrats are freaking out right now because this stuff is getting out. And some of the stuff has sort of disappeared off the internet. And I always love it when people say, they wouldn't do that. It's like, people, you got to come to the real world, the structure of the real world. They do everything in the name of God. Remember, they go to church. They're God. Who's God? Their God. So when, people say, about their God, their system, I'm praying to God. Well, to me, that's praying to the devil. But, of course, I don't believe in any of it because it's all mind control anyways. It's just, we got the evil people out there. That's how they make their living. And it's up to us to stop it by filing the criminal charges and stand up. And that's the one thing is you do have to file criminal charges. Most people say just file a complaint, but if you file just a complaint without putting the criminal charges in it, it's worthless. Because all you're doing is lying. You put the criminal charges, and then you're looking at that and you go, oh, shit, now we got a response? See, this is the things that, you got to think about, and, it's like me and Chief were talking about the other day. We're bouncing off some stuff, and we're going to get into that here in a little bit, because it's interesting, because we brought up some other stuff that we're bouncing back and forth, and when we were talking, and this is the whole point. You start talking, you start opening up more and more, you start putting the other pieces over here, and then you grab A and a Z over here, and then you split that over with Y, and all of a sudden it starts coming together, and you can see how the puzzle comes together, and you can see how they're actually using your straw man account or your credit dividends, whatever you want, for themselves. Even though that's technically when we get our water bills, and it says it's a payment coupon. People don't get it. And then on my water bills, they started putting tenant on the water bill. And then the city manager or the mayor's like, oh, that was an accident, Ed. We're doing that for the tenants, helping out the rentals. No, what they're doing is they're claiming your rentals, folks. It's a contract. You're not disputing it. This ain't a joke. You got to come to the reality of how they are doing this to you. And, everybody's panicking right now. A lot of people are really panicking over this, coronavirus. That was already predicted. Swine flu, same thing. H1N1 virus that Obama brought in. And it's amazing, I always was watching these things that disturb me when they're trying to say Obama was the best president. Obama took from the natives more and gave it to illegals, just like Kate Brown has been doing. So these people are terrorists. They're not honoring their oath. I mean, now they're finally getting pissed off on the internet and stuff about how Kate Brown is not honoring her oath. I mean, this should have been going on years ago. I've been bitching about it since 2006. When she lied and played her little game in the Senate and House public hearings. So, I mean, these guys do this stuff deliberately. These things are not accidents. They are not accidents. So you have to realize what these people are doing for their gain. And they're using your access. And so that's the other appointment with what they call the public credit. So we're getting that down, but then again, I do have it filed already that I filed, I think it was 4 years ago. 4 years ago. And that would have been in the, House or Senate. And and that's the Utility Commission. To start writing this stuff off on this stuff the way they're supposed to do it. But I didn't have all the facts at that point. Now I've got more and more of the pieces together. I knew I filed it, years ago back, so I knew I had to just file it to make sure it was on recorded record, and so that way, when it starts coming together, it's been there for 4 or 5 years already filed. They can't deny it. And so these are the one things to learn when you got the bug to do that. Get it filed. You can always come back and put further evidence in place. That's like a court case, even a court case has been ruled on. You go 4 or 5 years down the road and go into the courts again, and you can always enter a statement of further evidence. They don't like doing that, but, you can always get things overturned. Because you're dealing with a domestic court system that is not American. So that's why you want to file your paperwork. So anyhow, we're going to go ahead and open up the floor. We're going to get this going so we start talking and getting this stuff out. So, excuse me. So, and like I said,
all participants are unmuted.
Okay, I'm going to open up the floor to the floor over here in a minute. But like I said, what I'm doing when I was running for office, I'm putting this stuff out. I'm putting this stuff out on the Facebook. I just got off of Facebook being blocked. And I put 4 things on my website, dealing with what I posted on the property tax fraud back 6 years ago. And I only posted those 4, and I got booted off for another week. So people are waking up.
You're a wanted man.
Oh, well.
All right, we'll get into the GMEI stuff, brother. Come on.
Well, I want to get into that one, but I want you to open it up to that because that's one thing that we said I was going to do is I was going to open it up because we had a good one, and I want you to open it up because we were batting that around, and I want you to go with it, and then I'll bring it in.
All right, well, let's rock it, okay? We love to rock and roll boats and ships since that's what we're supposed to be as vessels.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's rock this boat and this vessel tonight. I want to say thanks to Ed and the producer, or is that pro-do-sir? Or is that pro-do-sire? See, words really are a big situation when it comes to legalities and lawfulability. Okay, what you might think is lawful might only be a legality. Okay, which they are not the same. Now, these courts and systems out here want you to think they are. Even those people who keep you entrapped by enslavement from birth from the birth certificate. The birth certificate is actually put on chattel paper. Yes, that's between the C and the A of cattle. Just put a little H in there and you have chattel. And that's what we were used as. And let's get into that. So we had a lady friend of ours a couple weeks back was on the show. Her name's Darlene. Her nickname is Dar. Should be Dar Rad because she is a radical young woman. Well, I guess if you go by a certain age, some people might consider us older, but I don't think the mine's that old. But what she found was a thing called GMEI utility. Okay, now if you type this in on your Google, your Yahoo, whatever you want, it'll pop up. What that is a global entity. What is that? Global market entity identifier. Okay, this is a 20-digit number that is attached to people who have gone into business by using their bond, which is basically your birth certificate.
And that's filed with your Secretary of State, too.
Yeah. And basically what she found out was if you type in, if you drop the drop bar, or you can find a little magnifying glass like I did just before the shopping cart above the Y on utility, and you hit that and you drop it down, you actually type in just your Social Security number with the dashes. Okay, which we'll get into that. Social Security number one's with dashes. Exemption identification number is one without dashes, or TIN is also usually one without dashes. But if you put the all dash number in there, it'll change. The nice little computer screen will change, and then it'll come back kind of looking normal. Just scroll down, and you'll see how many people are attached to that chattel certificate bond. So mine, when I did mine, I had 315 people attached to mine. When Dar did her, she had 339. A friend of mine says he's got about 1,500. I checked, he's definitely got 1,401. And these are the people that are actually making an interest of money off of the dividends from your bond. Okay, and this also brings you into bid bonds, performance bonds, and payment bonds. These are what the actual court system use. That's why they always want you to sign some kind of paper so they can get you on a bond.
Mm-hmm. And remember, that bond can only be certified after you sign it. They don't tell you, but they take that in, and the clerk certifies that instrument and then files it, recorded it. Now it's a certified bond. Go ahead.
What you can look that up if you actually get onto their comptroller websites, which is not the easiest thing to do right now because of all this craziness going on.
Mm-hmm.
So, but you can, check at different levels. I really want to thank Darlene for she thought she couldn't bring anything to this group, which I think is just insanely incredible because everybody has something to bring to this group. This is like a fireside chat. We open this thing up so that people can discuss things. We know what's going on daily to daily on what's happening out there. We know they're either trying to take control or they're trying to push this stuff on us. I'm not real fond of Billy Goat Rope Gates because he's trying to goat rope us all into taking some kind of vaccine.
I know that's the other thing too. Not to cut you out, but anyhow, that's the other thing. There is federal laws. I don't know if we have that. I think we got that put up on new.org and trackers, and I still got to find it again in my other computer. But we actually have the law in that. When they try to tell you you have to have vaccination, you file that law with a lawsuit. Not only that, you file with it stating that you want a certified statement from the one that's pushing you to get the vaccination. Then you want it from the manufacturer company, and their insurance are going to cover you. So you write your statement up and put all this stuff in. So when you send it in, they go, oh, wait a minute, no, we're not going to do all that. Because we do all that, and it proves that the vaccination is killing you. We're done. So they're bitching that everything's in a contract, Article 1, Section 10, so let's give it to them. Go ahead.
Yeah, definitely.
Hey, pardon me, can I butt in a sec?
Yeah, go ahead, butt in.
Could you rattle off the three bonds again?
Okay, you're going to have a bid bond, a performance bond, and a payment bond. Okay, these are going to be standard
bond. Okay.
Yeah, these are going to be standard forms 273, 274, and 275. Mm-hmm. Usually on the state side, on the government GSA side, you're going to have standard form 24, 25, and 25A, which you yourself can actually get bonds. Okay, but if you're going to go get a bond, take the time to go get yourself like a $10 piece of silver or a $20 piece of gold.
I was going to say, like a silver bond's a good thing, right?
Oh yes, indeed, brother. Oh yes, indeed, because I thought it
was like 21 pieces of silver, like 21 silver dollars.
Well, that's a service bond, but go ahead.
you can do it that way, but the thought process behind that is, what's the current value of silver going at?
No. It has to do with any controversy over $20. You're covered for.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. But also, too, they have to prove the controversy that has to be proven in the corpus delicti of an injured party or injured property. Otherwise, it's hearsay and it's inadmissible in court, so the court cannot even put it in court or even accept the filing.
Well, not only that, but all the little DA girls I've been talking to, none of them have an oath of office recorded.
Well, no, and that's what I've got. All these, they got 3 DAs running in my county. And so next week when I go on the talk show, I'm going to bring up, hey, who's filed with the oath? None of these people have oaths. They're not even legal to be in office. They're already committing federal crimes. It's already conspiracy what they've done. So I don't know if they're actually get that on the radio again or not, because the last time I said something similar to that was like 8 years ago, and Dave Miller owns all of the radio stations in Lincoln County primarily. The 7 radio stations. He threw me out of the studio. So he knows what's going on because he ended up filing bankruptcy. They put him for the hit for the county bank because his radio station was in the county bank. So they let him be the fall guy, but they wrote off all of his assets, all of his stuff, and then gave him some bonds for his retirement.
So, but couldn't you argue anything they did while they were acting the office or whatever?
Yeah, that's the other point.
None of those actions were valid, right?
Yes, and not only that, he runs the radio station, so that's conspiracy going above and beyond. So that's controlling the listeners with mind control.
Yeah.
Hello? How simple can you not comprehend that one? If he's doing it on one side, the radio station, I haven't listened to the radio station in years. I hit it a little bit once in a while. But it's like Lars Larson. I haven't listened to him in eons because, he's bouncing around, but I keep emailing him all this stuff. So that way, I know he's terrified half the times because he doesn't like me on the show because I nailed it. When they tried to poison me and they did all this to me, and it's like, been through it, done it. So, and that's the main point with this structure. You can't be a fear. It's like when I kept on going in the hospital, we need you to sign this. I said, I'm under arrest. I can't do that. I'm still under heart attack. All this other stuff. I spent 7 months in ICU, died 13 times. I'm under duress.
You ought to be paying.
Go ahead.
They ought to be paying you each time you die. Supposedly 2 are born. You brought 13 to 26 individuals into this world.
Well, no, I know that. I know. They recalculated it. It's like they reset, and so you comprehend, they reset all the books, the city, county, and states, and the banks reset.
Yeah.
So where did all the digits go? Remember, it's a number game. It's, So, where did all those digits go?
Well, the other one is it's a word game. You've got to check the grammar on some of these contracts because they're really, really tricky. What you think you're signing might be just no contract at all, just because of the word structure. People don't understand basic grammar. You've got to get into your grammar because, and if you're like me and you didn't pay attention when they said grammar, you thought they were talking about your grandmother back in high school. But that's just it. You've got to actually study the words. And, if you're not good at that like I am, you get somebody like Dar, you get somebody, that really can do the structure because you've got to proofread this stuff. They'll get you to sign something.
What's good for that is etymology online.
Yes.
So go ahead and finish what your thought is.
Well, you see, the other one is the LEI. If you actually look up from the GMEI stuff, if you look at LEI, that's legal entity identification. Now, it's not lawful identity identification.
Well, that's what they want you to get this national ID card to plug that into it.
Yes. And you see, when you look this up, and if you look it up on Wikipedia, which I did, and it really struck me on words because it goes, the who's of whose, and then whose of whom is owned.
Mm-hmm.
So you see there, right there, it's an entrapment to enslavement from the time you're born until you become conscious to comprehend the things that are going on. And you've got to watch words like I almost used understanding there, which when you're understanding, you're standing under them. You don't want to be in that position. It's really about words, and they will try to trick you up. If you walk
and
into
you can
a court,
always in court say, overstand you.
well, the other one is if you walk into a courtroom, comprehend. You have just contracted by walking in there.
That's true.
So
that's true. That's why I recommend you do your paperwork before you get there. And if they're forcing you in that courtroom, you make sure you file. You're forced under duress. You're a non-combatant, and they're trying to make you a combatant. So they're bringing you back in and out of military court, what it is, People say, well, it's not Admiralty court. It is to an Admiralty court because it's under the military structure. Read the military books, and I just got the military structure that I've been putting up under the Fourth Amendment with the structure, exactly what it says. This is from Congress.
Yeah, you might want to bone up on the Lieber Code.
Yes. Yeah, and they do got a couple good videos out in the Lieber Code on YouTube. And if you get them, please save them. Actually, because they're going after and attacking YouTube right now, going after it because the Queen of England, a company out of Canada, just bought Yahoo and YouTube. So when you're emailing on Yahoo or YouTube, now you're getting this as, did you really mean to send this? So you get that. They already got you plugged into the computer telling you yes or no, maybe, See, we've already been plugged into this shit. This is nothing new. We've been plugged into this shit for 10 years. And everybody keeps going, this is new. The new world order is the same world order. It's just the new generation of the last generation.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're having issues with that because they're trying to figure out who the next guards are going to be.
Right, and everybody's passing this off at the top. That's why they're having all these parties and meetings and these big galas. And everybody's thinking, oh, this is all fun time. These people, and everybody's watching it thinking that this is a great thing. They're watching to see how they're going to screw you next. It's interesting, this is the fifth time I'm running for office in my county. I ran for state representative. I ran for county commissioner. I ran for the mayor twice. And then I publicly was running for sheriff, and boy, did I get attacked on that one. So, they just don't want it out. But see, every time I've done that, now I've been putting it out, and I'm able to put it in my campaign letter. So instead, what they're doing is I'm emailing my letter out to people. I've got, I'll do 300 emails tonight, just in Lincoln County alone. And we got, and I'm in a county, basically 55,000 people. So I'm emailing a whole bunch of stuff to a whole bunch of people, filling their emails up and letting them read the law if they want. Most people are going to go, oh, what the hell is this? Who gives a shit? It's politics. But if they actually pay attention to the heading, they might find it interesting that when they do it, it'll protect them. And that's like the EIN numbers. And don't forget, all your corporations are EIN numbers. And bring that up, too, what we were talking about on that point. That we're putting that, I'm going to be putting that together. Where'd you go?
I'm right here. Having to deal with the dog.
Huh?
I had to deal with the dog real quick.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, the other one, if you don't believe what he's saying, I can actually give you my dead, deceased mother's Social Security number, and she's got 530 attacks on her situation, her bond, and the woman's been dead for 9 years. So that should give you an idea of how they're actually operating this whole entire system.
That's how they're able to arrest us and put us in jail. And we don't commit crimes. I mean, I've proven you don't need a license. I mean, I even proved Dexter Johnson owns the state of Oregon under contracting law, and that's under the Bar Association of the British Queen of Auxiliary to the King and Queen of England. It's never changed. And that's why the Vatican, every time a Senate and House bill gets passed, or at Congress, they always got the Vaticans in these places and bishops to decide if that could be a pastor or not. And then we keep going, oh God, religion is going to save us. And these guys are up at the Capitol laughing all the way to the bank because they know we're going to tell you this in church, and you know you're just going to do what we tell you. You're a sheep, and you do what we tell you. You know, that's what your religion is about. It's sad. It really is sad that we're living that way. You know, so when you get into these QSIP numbers, and that's the other thing, I'm going to be getting this out, and those who have my email and you want the emails I'm putting out, email me, and if you go on to new.org and Tractor's website, you'll see where it says to contact, and we'll get your email, and I'll get your email, and I'll send the information to you. Because I got decades of research doing this myself, putting it together. And then, you know, I'm in now the missing pieces, like I said to everybody, until I know how to write off your water, electricity bill, and now, you know, to do it correctly. Because I'm not going to do it like Winston Trout and, you know, with the same thing as what Ann Von Ritz did with Bruce Doucette and all the others of these guys. You know, I've been on talk shows with him over the last 15 years, been there. It's like I told Bruce, and I've got him on the web. And if you want to hear the talk show that me and Bruce did, you know, on the bullshit. You know, and this is the point. You know, Bruce went into court. It's like Larry Hopkins, you know, did that for the stuff for the New Mexico. You know, and they got him on gun charges. You know, and it's like, you know, I talked to Larry before all that happened and said, you need to do this. And oh, no, I don't have time. I'm the commander of all this stuff, and I got this going. And now he's got another 18 months he's going to do in jail. So this is the point. This is reality, folks. This is what you're living. This is no joke. So until you start standing up and fighting back, put your instruments together and prove that you're lawful. You know, and then that's helping Donald Trump out because, you know, the Indian nations are standing up. They're getting it. You know, what was that? The pipeline got stopped in South Dakota. Hello, people. You know, I mean, there's a lot of things that are changing, and, you know, start paying attention to the change. When you see the change, write the letter, support it. Thank the people involved in it. Because once these people know that they're being thankful, they'll stand up more and more because it is working. We've got this stuff working, but now we got the QSIP numbers. We've got this down with getting it down with the banking. It's really hard right now for me to bail on the campaign I got going because to put the other stuff together, but I'm trying to do everything at once because I'm in, you know, this campaign is an interesting campaign. Everybody is out in force because the guy that I'm running against, you got to remember, the other people that I'm running with on this campaign, they're all Christians. And the one we're running against is, trans. You know, I've known Bill Hall and Claire Hall for 30 years. You know, but I mean, you know, we knew this was coming up. I mean, you know, people knew about his court, you know, for years that he didn't want to talk about. And, you know, that's his business. It doesn't matter what the hell he wants to dress up as because the treaties and the Constitution gives him the right so long as he doesn't cause any harm, property damage, assaults anybody. But if anybody does it to him, hey, they have a right to go to jail. Because, I mean, he has the right to, you know, it has the right to do what it wants to do. But so long as it doesn't cause personal property damage, we have no right to speak on that. It's like a woman who was abortion. We have no right telling a woman that she doesn't have a right to her body. Because you got to remember, men, if you start doing that to women, that means you don't have a right to your body. That's what was that famous thing? Do we want the law of the jungle or do we want man's law? I want the law of the jungle. That's fair. Man's law goes by the mood of whatever the man is doing that day or that week or that month. So, but anyhow, let's get, I don't know why I ended up on a tangent because we got to get back to this. So, Chief, get it back into the other point where we're talking about on this point.
Well, if you really want to go into it, like my name is Chief Willie J. Willie stands for
let's
Will
get
I
into
Am.
it. That's what I want to really get into, because I've got deals I'm going to be adding into it. So I want to get into it so people start getting this, because when they start comprehending this is how when they, I'm going to put the floor back to here in a minute, but everybody keeps going, I got a right to vote, I got a right to vote. You got to remember the voting law was put in by the Roman Catholic Church into the structure after the Civil War. So we can vote, so that way we can still control you. If there was no voting and we didn't have the problem, no injured party, no property damage, we wouldn't be in half the bullshit that we're arguing right now in this campaign. So go ahead.
So yeah, basically, like my name is Chief Willie J. It's actually a combination. Chief being, we have to have chiefs because we need to get more of a tribal or elder thought process, not just at the local levels, but at the higher levels. The other one is will. Let's think about that. What's a will? Well, that's also a trust. Okay. Well, what's the money and the coinage say? In God we trust. Well, if you want to call him God, that's fine. You can call him the creator. I don't care what you call him. Okay. As long as you understand the trust part. Okay. So let's see. Let's take a look at Bill Gates. Well, he puts B in front of his. Well, what's he doing? He's trying to bill you. Okay. I'm not trying to bill you. I'm trying to thrill you. Okay. So let's get back to the thrill. Okay, so the real problem here is that will, if you actually look up in the Christian meaning, if you want to go that direction, will means devout protector. The J stands for Joseph, which is also Yusuf in Hebrew. Okay, which under the Hebrew, YHVH is actually Yahweh, which is the creator's supposed name. Okay, which he has many names. I don't really care, like I said, what you call him. We call him the great-grandfather when you come from the Navajo or from the Native Indian situations. Okay, so back to the will situation. Okay, so trust, that's really what it's about. They're trying to tell you something. They're giving you a message, only they're not explaining it fully to you. You want to get yourself into a trust. That's what keeps you private. Okay, there's a difference between private and public. Okay, out here when you're dealing in the day-to-day life, you're in the public. When you're at home, you're supposed to be private. Although you can still be private in a public venue. You can change that hat anytime you want to. Okay, another one, back to the driver's license. Anything of a license, if you look it up, any law dictionary. Of course, now we have a little tendency on the black ones because this week alone, one of the bloodline from the horse's mouth of the family of Black's Law stated that they've been playing a hoax. Well, that leads back to 1891. That's 5 generations of hoaxes.
Mm-hmm.
So
well, it goes back to the original structure of the Black Law Dictionary. It was written as a joke for the king. They never expected in the 13th century to come out and people would follow it and believe in the bullshit. And there's even structure and writing in that part of history in England, and it's even filed in Sewer and Water in downtown England. Go ahead, Chief.
So basically, as it turns out, what you want to try to do is get yourself set up in a trust. This includes all your license, any kind of paperwork you have going on. But you want that in a private situation. Okay, yes, you can run a business from it, but you don't want an LLC situation. Okay, the way this was designed was, in reality, on the actual Bankruptcy Act was only by signature, because people really couldn't read or write half the time back in 1933. Okay, or even beyond that. If you go back to the 1800s when it actually started, because it actually started in the late or mid 1800s. Okay, so they did the coup de grace in 1933 under the Bankruptcy Act. Under House Resolution 192, of course, now the biggest part you want to pay attention to is Chapter 48, Statute 48, Section 112. And the reason being is that goes to signature or autograph. Okay, and there is a difference. When you're signing stuff in the public, you're signing a signature. When you're signing it in the private, you're doing an autograph.
Let me add to that one, because every time I did paperwork with the hospital, or they tried to give me paperwork in the ambulance, but I never did any of it. But every time they were trying to get me doing that in the hospital, I would have to scratch out that. And they said, you can't do that. And I said, wait a minute, this is a legal contract. I can only do this in an autograph in red ink with my thumbprint or blood. And I quoted this stuff, and they're like, and then I got to the point where, basically when I started doing that, and I said, just go on, Ed, just go on, And so, then I got to the point where I wasn't doing it. And then when, say, got somebody new when I came through, and I went, okay, we're going to go through this, and it's like, somebody would say, is that Ed Johnston? And he goes, yeah, tell him to go on. So, you get this point, and you start realizing, and that's the point on the private and public trust situation. All right, because the cops are writing that off on your straw man account when you go to jail and stuff. So they're billing that to that trust and that circumstances. So that's elating billing. So we're going to be getting into that. We got to get more of that footing down. But that's going to be, I'm going to be doing that in the campaign, and I'm going to be putting together a ballot title on. Because I figure I might as well have some fun with these ballot titles while it's a hot political season. And in that way, that's going to really rock it because it's going to go through the state. Okay? You got to have it moving. So I got 2 weeks to do this stuff. Plus, I'm still moving the stuff to get the stuff out around my county so people can read this stuff. And I know people are freaking out when they're spending hundreds and tens of thousands of dollars with, big banners. I mean, I've never seen people put 14-foot banners running for office before in my county. I've been here 30 years. So go ahead. Let's head into the other. Go ahead.
So basically on the Chapter 48, Statute 48, Section 112, it states, basically, if you sign a contract, but before the ink is even dry, you don't want to be a party to that contract, you do not have to be a party to it. And let's think about it. Who's this party for? Is it actually for you? Is it for them? Okay? Because 9 out of 10 times it's actually for them. And that leads back to the person. Yep, and that's just it. If you look anything up in the law books, it's going to say person. What is a person? It's a thing. It has many different meanings to it. Just like when they asked Bill Clinton what is, and he said, well, that means what's the definition of is? Well, if you look at the definition,
a person is a legal entity. So if you claim to be a person, you're using your legal signature as giving away your rights to that person. Go ahead.
Yes, indeed. And that's the whole point, is you've got to actually study, and you're going to have to do a lot of reading, but it's all out there. Another one, if you really want to get into the Lieber Code, the best one I found is Glenn at Sovereign Living. You can find him on YouTube, and then you can find him on Yahoo. His whole entire structure is like Ed's. It's already there on his front page usually. Of course, he gets a little wound up like Ed, too. He's going to tell you if these people dressing in black are Baal priest, which he's probably got a good line on that because they are working some kind of magic. And the magic works for them. It does not work for you. In order to counter that magic, you've got to learn, and you've got to be able to express yourself. Okay, there's also a
field called black magic. Go ahead.
So yes, and then you've got to count yours in a fashion of white magic. Another book if you want to actually get into it, although it's a little bit long and it's got Roman numbers in it, which that ought to lead you down a pathway. But it's called The Secret Teachings of All Ages by Manly P. Hall. It'll give you the whole entire structure of kind of how religious things came about. It'll also explain the past history of how we got to where we are. And seriously, this is just to educate people on things that are going on. In there, you'll see the pentagram. You'll also see different, pictures and whatnot in it. I mean, it's actually a good situation. You can actually get it on YouTube and listen to it, although it's about 4 hours long to listen to. But you can always replay it, and you can jot down notes and do whatever you want to do. I got lucky. My mother bought the book years ago and read it herself. So that one I have to bless her for where she is, wherever she may be. So, but that's the other thing is it when it comes to this stuff, it's really about reading and comprehending what you're reading. And if you can't, pick up a couple dictionaries and look the words up. That'll help you a lot. It really does. Yes, it's a pain in the butt, but at the same time, it's to get back to the lawful ways of life. Okay, they want to trick you into believing that legalities are lawful. They are not.
Well, and don't forget, I can't remember that guy's name that we got his picture. We done this, where he does his YouTube videos out there, and he skims, but he doesn't quite tell the truth. But then if you actually read the stuff he puts up there, it has the truth in it, but he won't tell you the truth. So he's just no different than any of them, with, telling you what's going on with the right hand while the left hand is sitting there picking your pocket.
Oh, are you talking about Kelby?
I think so. There's another one, the one in New York City. This is the one that comes on, and he's trying to tell people that he's talking and does the same thing that Christiane Hall does. And that's the one thing. I mean, I've typed on Christiane Hall. She's typing this stuff on her deal, and I've been there, and I typed the stuff with the treaties when she's going off. And, and her partner goes, well, we don't like being, bugged or flagged, and I'm like, what? Tell the truth, you know? You're supposed to be a fucking lawyer, you claim, but you're just like them all. You're not going to tell the truth because you can't tell the truth. That's why you still have a bar license. So don't get confused with these people out there doing this shit. Check their credentials. If they're an esquire, you know that they're in the hip pocket. And then, come on, everybody went with her, and then the Bundys did all this stuff, and look at the Bundys still. You know, so don't follow these beaten paths that are just still going in the mud, and there's no traction going uphill. Go ahead, Chief.
I thought the producer was trying to chime in there.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was, but somebody decides he's going to go on a huge damn rant.
I've never done that before.
Yeah, I was about ready to mute you. Anyways, Hip Hughes, that's who you're talking about.
Well, where would you like us to shift to?
No, it's Hip Hughes.
Oh, Hughes. All right, yes, that's who he was bringing the name in that we were talking about. Hughes, yeah.
Constitution for Dummies, Hip Hughes. He does a YouTube thing.
There you go.
We caught him flat out. He flat out stated the Constitution says the government, the federal government, is the law of the land. And well, actually, I got a picture somewhere. Anybody on YouTube can see it after I put it up. But
yeah, that'd be a good one to put up on the screen. But yeah, it amazes me that these guys out there doing this shit. You know, Romans 13, give Caesar what Caesar's is due. You know, and then then they sit there and do that shit, and then they expect their families to roll over and to do for them and take the loss for them. You know.
Hey, may I?
Go ahead, may I?
Okay, this is a little change of subject for a little bit.
Go ahead.
Okay, it would be good if everyone would look at Oregon County says no whites allowed, and it's the Daily Bell. And there's a whole bunch of newspapers now that are covering this as of yesterday, including California. And it's Oregon County says, no whites allowed. Plus, California. Oregon County says, no whites allowed. Portland.
I know, it's just getting, all this stuff is getting so stupid out there.
Oregon County says, no whites allowed. Oregon. Another state, another place. Oregon County says, no whites allowed. And it goes on and on into California, and where they arrested people yesterday. There's a lot going on regarding this race war that they're trying to get going.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just one newspaper article after another today, as of yesterday, of what occurred yesterday.
Well, there's the mind manipulation.
All you got to punch in it. Oregon County says no whites allowed.
Well, yeah, but that's just propaganda. That's propaganda.
More articles by newspapers.
No, it's more than propaganda. Let him finish what he's saying. Go ahead, finish what you're saying, guy.
Well, I just wanted everybody to punch it in, kind of peruse the several pages that's there regarding what's the arrests of the 32 plus people in California, plus what's going on in Oregon, and what they're trying to do to create a civil war here in America. So
yeah, because the Civil War didn't go the way they expected when nobody could get toilet paper to wipe their ass.
Well, anyway, no whites allowed, and it's the Daily Bell and all these other newspapers in Portland and different places there. So it's very much worth the read. Okay, that's it.
Got it. But anyhow, I find it hilarious, what's going on with this stuff, because they really tried to get the war going with toilet paper. Now they were doing that with the food restoration because they shut down 60% of the plants across the country. Then Bush comes in with an executive order to open all the plants and say, you're not going to starve the people out.
You mean Trump?
Or Trump, I mean, excuse me. Thank you for the correction. So Trump comes in with this executive order, says you're not going to starve the people. Pelosi and all the Roman Catholic Christians are pissed off.
Well, just remember this: no whites allowed in Multnomah County. That's what's in the newspaper there.
I know. I got to find that. Put that. Well, I can't do anything on Facebook for another week. I only posted 4 things on my web, and I got knocked off.
Well, the ironic thing there is you should actually be going after the paper because that's discrimination.
No, I got to go after Facebook. It's discrimination.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's no whites allowed is basically a discriminative term.
Oh yeah, that one. Yeah, that's true.
So you see, they're right there. They put themselves in a non-freedom of speech aspect. In reality, they're actually causing harm. Okay, and if you go back to when this,
all the liability issue.
And if you go back across to Europe, when this started in Greece and then extended itself out to Italy, after 2 weeks of shutting the power down, and that's the one I've been waiting for. What can you get if they shut the power down? Absolutely nothing. Okay, so here's the deal. When they did it in Greece and they did it in Italy, within 2 weeks, people were killing each other over a loaf of bread. So let's not end up like them. Let's think this one through. You know, we're all
California is still talking about shutting the electricity down, and the governor of Newsom came out with California last week to shut down. Well, and also too, the mayor of Los Angeles came out to shut the water down to everyone.
Well, and the other one is, look at Nevada and Arizona. I'm getting information from there that they're talking about you're also only going to be able to go to stores if your name is like A through like D.
Yeah, depends on no day of the week.
Yeah. You know, this is like the gas, odd even gas days back in the 70s. So, yes, I'm that old. And that's the sad part is this is what they're doing. They're trying to control people. It's ironic that they're doing this instead of restructuring the actual system. Okay, if they were willing to come to us, and this is part of what happened here. Okay, under the Bankruptcy Act, all court systems and all legality individuals or any people of office holding are not allowed to divulge that bankruptcy. So that's why they come up with these crazy thought processes and these bills and these acts.
Right.
Okay, and what are ACTS? If you go by the world as a stage, then that's exactly what's going on. It's an act.
Right. It's an act of a stage.
So, and basically what they're doing is they're saying, okay, are you going to listen to us and follow us? Well, this is what self-government is about. Okay, we're not supposed to be following them. We're supposed to be helping them. Okay, and if they can't help themselves,
doing their oath of servitude of their employment structure instead of trying to rape, rob, and pillage us.
Well, and that's the sad part. That's really what the structure is about. They won't come to you and tell you honestly. How about we get a little honesty in here and let's get a little trust going between all of us, and let's just have you tell us, okay, we need to borrow your credit. You need to borrow my credit, that's fine, but you need to pay me a little bit for that credit. I'm willing to.
Right, you need not to beat me up for it either.
Exactly. You don't have to shackle me. You don't have to take me away from my family. You don't have to haul my personal property off, which is unlawful in the first place. That leads back to Marbury versus Madison, Hale versus Hinkle, Schimel versus California under the Article 4 or Title 4. And then also the one that I like that they came up with in 2015 in the state of Virginia, which is actually the state of Virginia versus Mason. Okay, and in that one, they pulled somebody over for dangling from the rear view mirror. Something was hanging there. And when they pulled the van over, they were searching it, and they found a bag that had 28 ounces of marijuana that nobody claimed. They incarcerated both people. The female, who was the passenger, her last name was Mason. She challenged the situation, and on a 3-panel Supreme Court judge setup, they decided that, yes, you only had the right to pull over for the dangling situation on the mirror, but you did not have probable cause to search the rest without a proper warrant. And a proper warrant has got to be handed down by a grand jury indictment, not by somebody signing it called a magistrate. And what is magi? Once again, that leads back to our magical stuff. Okay? So, roll with it, Ed.
Yeah, it is funny when you step out of this movie and watch the production.
Yes.
I've been saying this since the back in the 70s, I was saying this, I mean, I figured that out when I was going through this, because it's like, I remember when I started fishing on the coast, I was about 12 and a half, 13 years old. And I'm going through the state of California synopsis. And it was a second page. And it said how California's had the right to hunt and fish, and here's the Constitution, here's the law, you don't need permits, and da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. It said it right on the second page of the California Department of Fish and Wildlife, or the Department of Fish and Wildlife structure. It said right there in their own structure. And then all of a sudden, and I get the structure that says inland waters. You don't have to do this. And I got people argue with me on that. And it's you got to go back to the naval structure of how the coastal runs were done by the naval military. Okay? That goes back a few hundred years.
Well, that's the other one. In reality, in order to free yourself up, you're actually supposed to do some of your paperwork with the Coast Guard because you actually have a number like a vessel.
Yes, and not only that, that's the one thing that I do is I email all my stuff to Coast Guard, to all these people. I email it because right now I don't have the money to send it certified like I do. And I always love to do a green card because, under the 1938 Foreign Registration Act, you're going into a foreign country.
Right.
That's called with the District of Columbia, Washington, D.C. That's the reality.
Yeah, the other one I got into was watching one not too long ago, and it basically had one where the guy actually, because of the gold fringed flag in there, he actually contacted, after getting his information, he sent it to the actual Corps of Army Engineers.
Yeah.
So,
and that's the other thing, putting all these pieces together, how it comes out, and that's the point that we need to start putting it together in a sheet. So, we can have it put it on the sheet. So you just print out the sheet, and this way people can get the sheet and start figuring out, you need this, you need that. Because like I said, I've been filing my paperwork on for the last 20 years myself, and I keep doing stuff. And it's like a court case. You can always put new evidence in. But you have to use the word new evidence.
Well, the one I'd really like to challenge is the fact of actually showing me the birth certificate and the attachment.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's the one that's not taught to us. That's the other thing. We're not teaching this to you. This is something you have to teach yourself. And then once you start to teach yourself, they try to shift things. So it still accommodates them, and it's all about them lining their pockets. Let's get some people into these situations, into these offices that do want to honor that oath, and they're happy to have the extra little coin that they get instead of looking for the next person that's going to give them a gift or some kind of special package filled with money, or if you want to call it money, we all know that money is not real. It's actually a bill of exchange. If you actually look up money, it'll say currency. And it'll also say it's an obligation from the government to the people. So, that's the thing is, the one, if you really want to get into it, you want to also look up the money orders of the Postal Service, okay, because that is still backed by gold and silver. That's the one stipulation they kept in play when the government took over the postal situation. So,
If I may.
Go ahead, May.
How much on the books are senators supposed to be making? Isn't it like
anywhere from 176,000 a year to 190, I think 5,000 a year.
All right, 176,000 a year to 195,000 a year, and people like, and I'm saying people because they're fictional entities. Pelosi, Schumer, Schiff, actually most of them are millionaires now. How did that happen with just that as their salary?
Right, they did, and that's because they had the stocks rotating with using our stocks, our names.
Yep, from the GMEI stuff that we were just talking about. You're financing the entire world. You actually look up on the GMEI website and you follow it around a little bit, which that's the other one. It'll have parent or non-parent on there. When you drop one of the situations, if you go over to the numbers to the left-hand side and click on them, okay, and then you press on one of the it'll actually bring up the address, who the company is and who's trading you. So, and I don't know if you want to go by traders as TRADERS, or if you want to go to the other one, which is traders, and we all know what that one spelled and what that one means. Because that's exactly what these people are. They're traders, okay, to the Constitution and to the people themselves, to the continent and to the soil, the spiritual souls of the soil, okay? And what I'm saying on that part is that you can actually go on there and see. It goes worldwide. When I check mine, you have them in the United Kingdom, you have them in the United States, you have them in, Australia, Japan, Hong Kong, China. The ones that I haven't seen is Middle Eastern Indian, okay, or like Iraq, Iran. I haven't seen anything situated on those. And I truly believe the whole reason they're trying to get into those countries is to set up the same system under the IMF.
Mm-hmm.
And that's that. Once again, this also leads back to Walter J. Burien stuff. And at one point in time, they actually did, and it was, you'll probably know the name. It was Hildebrand Tucci and a man by the name of David Wynn Miller, God rest his soul. But they went across the United States and across the world, and they had to figure out exactly what was owed and what was supposed to be paid out. Well, in reality, we don't owe anything. They owe us for using us as collateral. Okay, so let me break that down for you. When you're born, you get about $1 million surety bond. Okay, that's to buy all your products for you for the rest of your life and to pay you when you go to work. Okay, but they also
you're paying yourself to do your work.
Exactly, and then they trade you for $2 million a year on the average. Now, in reality, when you're on a private side, you're supposed to be able to use $500,000 of that per year as a write-off, provided you know how to do the paperwork.
Under 1099.
Yep, and then that's 1099As and 1099Cs, which also involves the 1040V and a few of the other ones. They may have done away with the V. There's some other ones that are out there, but you can look the forms up on the IRS.gov form situation when it comes to the taxation department. And a lot of people don't know it, but the IRS, the U.S. Treasury, and the ATF are all under one trust. So this shows you that it's not government. It's owned by somebody. Okay, so this is what's going on. And this is why you have to educate yourself. This is how you get yourself free, from the bondage. The other one is, they do it for about 50 years. So let's take a average individual who's in the military who dies at age 25. That pays the government $61 million to $71 million. Do you know how long it takes $500,000 that they pay to the families of that deceased individual on a timely basis? Because I used to actually pick up a banking industry up and down the East Coast here a little bit, and I take it to the actual Baltimore Fed. Okay, now if I put that $60 million in at, say, midnight, by 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock in the morning, they've already been able to pay the family out, and they still get to keep the $61 to $71 million your life was worth because you didn't claim it. So
you didn't file and claim it. You just let the interest be paid. You didn't file on the principal.
Exactly. The other one is, let's take a look at it. They did an actual survey where they did 700 people, and they did it over a 10-year span. That actually would come up to $222 trillion. That's what it comes out to for 10 years for 700 people. So can you see and imagine the money they are making off of trading us and us not knowing what's going on and not educating ourselves?
Mm-hmm.
This would pay. How many people would not be homeless? How many people would be not starving if we were all sharing this? I mean, I don't care if they take, they're going to take the lion's share anyway, but how about we split it up? How about we do it like on an 80 or 20%, situation? Give us the 20.
We get $5,000 a month. That's only 55, we get set up so we get even $100,000 a year, because that was the original thing that I put in with Obama when they were doing that, and it's like, he should give everybody $100,000. No immigrants, nobody. It had to be all natives. If he would have gave all the natives $100,000, that would have boosted the economy, where it would have come back in out of their system.
See, that's what grabs me, is that they're playing it their way still, trying to keep the old guard and the old way going. Which I don't know anybody that wants their family members dismembered or murdered or disabled for life. Okay, that's the other one. When you're getting your SSI check or your SDI check, whether you're disabled or you're getting a Social Security check. Okay, and let's take a look at it. First word, social. Socialism, I mean, how far do you have to go there? ISM. Okay,
That's right. And they're taking your interest and partying on it, and you're not even getting even a fair share out of the deal.
No, not whatsoever. And it really does lead back to your autograph. That's what they need. That's how they monetize and securitize paperwork to sell on the stock market. You know, a lot of people don't understand, don't comprehend that these prisons are now privatized. For whatever dime they can save, they get to pocket. So, starving the people in there and turning them against each other and not really teaching the people that watch over them that are supposed to wear badges and guns and carry handcuffs around. The more they can take away from them, the more they get to put in their pockets. Well, that really leads back to us. We're the ones who created that. When they did away with the money, they used us as collateral. Can you understand the term collateral damage now, after what I've just explained?
Don't forget the collateral insurance on the collateral damage.
Exactly. A lot of people don't know it, but after they did the surety bond of $1 million, they included another $10 million up until the time you actually came of age, which is somewhere around 25. You can claim it in certain states at 18 and 21. But theoretically, if you go by the Bible, which, some people think that's basic information before leaving Earth. Well, what if it was banking information, basic information, banking ledger entries? You see, there's a twist to some of this stuff. And they're not going to tell you this stuff. They're not going to educate you because they don't want you to know, because then they lose control. And then they actually become the servants. They're trying to say you're the servant. They forced you into servitude or peonage, like the gentleman spoke about last weekend.
So if anybody's got anything to say, jump in. You're more than willing to throw in a question, response, because you could always be, but like I said, going through this, bringing this stuff forward to you, but you could always ask questions. You could always jump in. And if we saying something that you might not you might disagree with, bring your thought forward. But just think about what's going on here, because right now, it's funny, when you really think about it, the first thing that cut off on the general public was toilet paper. I mean, think about it. Realistically, step out of that damn movie and pay attention. And everybody panicked because they couldn't wipe their ass. Think about it. Go ahead.
By the way, Ed's posted that online as to what paper, if you don't have paper, what leaves you might be able to use. Just don't use poison ivy.
Yeah, no, we have that on the website. The producer put it up on the website. So we got it from going to Florida to Oregon. So print it out, save it, put it in your packs and stuff, because the shit gets to the point where it gets worse again, and you didn't supply yourself with food and water. Because, that's the other thing. People got this supplement check, and everybody went out and bought radios and TVs. And how many people went ahead and stocked up on food? See, they're getting ready to do this crash on you. This is not a joke that's coming down the deal. Okay? This is something that we're living right now, that they want to do this crash on you. It's like I've been putting this stuff out, when I was talking to one of the news reporters, 2 days ago. And he's like, well, Ed, I haven't seen what you... I said, I can send it to you. I sent it to everybody. So all you're doing is bullshitting me. So, I get your point. Well, I've been doing this for 50 years. Yeah, I've been doing this for 50 years, too. So, it was, the guy was trying to, tell me that, he's a newspaper man. So, because he runs his newspaper, his word is God. And some people that read his paper probably do take it as his word is God. See, that's the point that we got all this confusion. We got so many newspapers claiming to be God. Go ahead. Anybody else like to throw something in here?
I'd like to hear somebody chime up about how they feel about being a slave.
Don't like it.
Well, what's the solution if you don't like it? What is the solution that you're going to do to get out of it?
Who knows?
Well, that's what we're discussing here. What are your thoughts on it? That's got to be Dean, if I can recognize the voice.
Yes, sir. That's me, Chief.
Yeah, brother. Come on, man. Talk about it. That's what we're here for.
Speak up. How you doing, Dean?
Good. How y'all doing?
Doing good. But speak up. What's your thoughts that you'd like to put into this?
I just jumped in here. I just got out the shower.
Yeah, at least you're clean.
Yeah. At least I hope I am.
But I mean, like I said, it's just the one thing. I mean, I get to see all these people. They got this money, and all they did is went out and buy computers and the new $800 cell phone. And I'm thinking to myself, people are buying this shit, and they're not buying food. They're not protecting their food resources. They're not protecting this stuff. And everybody keeps going, oh, we got to give to the food share, give to the food share, give to the food share. How come we're not sitting there in the cities and parks and have they're starting to do it in my county now with the Girl Scouts are doing it. But, I've been preaching on this for 30 years, and how come we're not sitting there, making sure that the city hall has planters and food and all this stuff?
Really?
It's our responsibility.
The first thing I did was go out and buy food.
I didn't quite comprehend what you said.
I said that'd be the first thing I did was go out and buy some food.
Yeah.
The hell with the phone and the radios and TVs and all that. I don't need that. I've got one of them. I don't even watch. Don't even want it.
Well, I know that's the one thing. I never got into all that other stuff. To me, that was just always a burden. My ex used to get upset because I wouldn't, when I always called it a tracking device, because I won't have one of their tracking device. And I used to tell her I'm not going to get a pay to be tracked. And I said, if it really comes down to it, there's an emergency, they'll be able to find me. And she goes, well, if there is, how's it going to happen? It's like, how did we do it before we had a cell phone?
That's right. Come on.
I mean, did we forget, basics of our living and basics of our life?
Yep.
The other point, too, is that, the other point that most people had, what was that? Two-way radios.
CDs.
I remember, back in the 70s, I used to go on Channel 11. I could call anywhere around the world, call the international operator, call anywhere around the world for free. Off a radio, CB radio. I used to do that to, even local calls. I have the international operator because that's what she gets paid for off of the radio system. That includes just not the CB. That also, too, includes, the marine radios, emergency radios. See, this is the one thing people don't comprehend, how this stuff works and how it all comes together.
Shortwave radio.
Hey,
yeah.
I can still remember my call letters, KJM 3038, and I used to run by the name of Swamp Spider, which might be a little bit pertinent to right about now, clearing out that swamp down there.
See, I can't remember my damn numbers to tell you the truth, but I just went by my name, the California Cowboy. I had an intriguing reputation in my time back then.
Well, that's a suggestion. People might want to invest in a CB radio right about now, because if they shut down the power, you're not going to be able to charge your phone, but you can always start the vehicle up if you got fuel. But then again, if they shut the power down, you're going to be able to get fuel.
Mm-hmm.
Just side point.
Now I've got a CB radio.
Ed talking about his handle. He came from San Francisco, so it's not California Cowboy, it's California Cowboy.
Hey.
Thanks a lot.
Nothing wrong with that.
God, the abuse I take. But I mean, this is the whole thing. What's going on with this crazy shit we're living, and that's the point. We're living this crazy shit.
Yeah. Well, then is Darlene on the line tonight?
I don't know. Is Darlene on? Darlene, are you there? Speak up. The board's open, so speak up.
She had to help some friends. I didn't know if she was going to be on tonight or not. She might be listening.
Okay. So, but I mean, and this is the point that, see, we're putting this together, and now, I mean, what he put together and what I'm putting together, and also, too, I'm putting this up, I'm running for office, guys, This is a big deal because, and they're pissed off because my letters and stuff, when they put it in the paper, they can't change my wording because I'm running for office. It's a political statement. Like I already went through it. The other newspaper said, well, we can only write your words. And I said, those are my words. I'm writing the Constitution, Republic form of government. And they go, we can't write that. That's not your words. Yes, it is my words. You know, but see, they do this so that way, you know, they could not do this because, see, back until the 1980s, and they did this big push. What was that from fucking, what was that idiot name? Clinton. Okay, when they did this to do all this and to screw us, and this all came from the Clinton party. You know, so that's the one thing. And with Hillary, I mean, that's what gets to me. And people are going, well, Hillary should be in jail. Well, we know that, but how come you haven't written your federal complaint yet? And your federal charges on Hillary, how come you haven't filed it nationally? See, once we start getting that where they can't run and hide, then we're starting to make progress because these people are still playing us that they think that they're the gods. That's why I always say, what God, who's God, why is there a God, and why are you saying what about God? Because, you know, I don't believe in something that comes from a foreign country.
Well, you know, and the people have been listening out there back in Clinton's day, he also did two things. That's where he released Hawaii, okay, and then on top of that, they created the Nassara situation. So, you know, that's the national economic structure resetting.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's about where we're at, you know. And then the other one is, when it comes under the situation on the financials, now the one that bothers me is that they actually put one in place in 2007, 2008 when Bush was in office, and that was the Sarbanes-Oxley Act, which we're supposed to be getting like a statement if they use us, and that's not happening. So right there should tell you that.
No, it's like that's when the Arabs got the three major ports, and because they're bringing in the structure under the port under the contract, we're supposed to get a percentage of that deal, and we're not getting that either.
Chief Willie, you're just clicking out, and we're getting maybe a vowel here and there. I did not know we were playing.
Well, I just saw this deal. Canada immediately bans all assault rifles in their country. In Michigan, all state parks are closed until the end of June, I mean. You know? See, I mean, this is our stuff. They're doing this. What are they putting in, poisoning us? You know, I love it when Michigan, you know, all these protesters out there, you know, but they're yelling and screaming. How come they're not serving the indictments on these people? You know, I've already talked to several of these people on the phone, and I'm trying to tell them how to do these indictments. They're like, we don't have time to do that. All they do is want to yell and scream. They want to be combatants. Why are you being a warrior when the time now is use the pen is mightier than a sword? You know, that's like I'm running for office, you know. And if you're into it, you know, hey, great. How about throwing some support letters going, hey, maybe Ed has a point out here. Did anybody think about it? You know, the newspaper writes political comments in the election time. You know, trust me, I know what it's like. I mean, I get a lot of them going, man, watch out for Ed and all this stuff. You know, because I know that they're scared, they're terrified of me. You know, it's amazing when I go into these buildings and stuff, when I watch these politicians shake. You know, it's just interesting when you watch the fear sometimes in these people's eyes, too.
Well, you know, that brings up an interesting subject. Maybe we should start filing paperwork individually. You know,
that's the point I've been bitching out for a long time.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I've been bitching about that for a long time. Because, but see, the thing is, I'm saying all of us need a file, but see, then again, new.org and Trackers, the website, we have a public record, so when people do it, we can put it up there, so then that way it's on a public record. It's the same thing as a newspaper. So you got to realize that website has a lot of credibility on that. So it's the same thing as a newspaper because we can only put lawful stuff up there. You know, it's like the other point it says on the website, we can't do religion. We're not, and I don't do that in any of the sites. I don't. Sometimes I'll do. Sometimes religious, I let it slide. Depends on the way the commentaries are. But I got a lot of these people that, you know, all these pastors and religious people that, you know, some of you guys know who I'm talking about. Some of you in our groups, and these guys are terrified of me. And then they're trying to tell me I don't get it, and I'm like, then how come you're not telling the people the truth? You know, I mean, it's like I got to call Camilla in California. You know, the congresswoman down there because, you know, this sheriff's deputy's just beating the hell out of this little 14-year-old boy. You know, and so I'm going to go call, I'm going to call him here Monday, and I'm going to say, hey, tell the parents I want to be able to write their indictments. And, you know this, but I'm going to show them how to do this, and seeing that you're not doing your job, I'm going to show them how to put you in jail. See, this is what we need to do to these people. See, this is our responsibility. You know, so, I mean, when these people, you know, people are getting away with the shit they're getting away with, it's just disgusting. You know, it truly is disgusting. So, I mean, and, you know, we got the solutions, you know, and that's the one thing, you know, what we're talking about now, and that's the point. We want to get these things written up and filed. And if you got one that you've written up and you got one that you filed, make sure that I get it so I can put it on the website, because we do have a public record site. And trust me, that helps you. You know, that's the one thing you got to start realizing that, you know, this structure that we're working on is for all of this. I mean, you know, shit, I know I'm not going to win the office, you know, because, I mean, I scare the hell out of people because I'm not polite sometimes. And people go, well, you're not polite, and so, and I'm going, well, shit, I'm a man. I just tell you the way it is. I'm not going to I can't do this pussyfooting around. You know, if you don't like it, get out of the kitchen. That's the one thing about politics. This politics has turned into this bullshit.
Okay.
Now ODF&W put up a deal with non-residents. Non-residents can fish and hunt in Oregon again. Did anybody legally catch that? This is from the Department of Fish and Wildlife. I got a copy. I'm going to try to see if I might be able to paste it on, at least on my front page. But I want you to comprehend what it just said, non-residents.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute, non-residents. So that means subsistence fishery? Wording, folks. I'm posting this on my Facebook wall.
Well, you
and
might
then
want
I'll be calling Monday to confirm it. Because I'm saving this headline.
You might want to keep on how to be a non-resident, which is to either enclose your zip code, because once again that leads back to code. We all know codes are a decipher.
Washington D.C. code.
Yeah, but if you put it in the parentheses or in care of, and you don't put a zip code down, you don't have to. So, you know, and that's the other one. Remember, we were discussing the LEI stuff, the legal entity identification. In that actual situation that I study on, it said that all corporations are supposed to have an LEI number. Okay, well, that's what they're treating you as a corporation when you walk into these courts. Or if you sign, you know, if you autograph or sign anything, they call it signature. Okay, so you know, that's the interesting one that I'm going down the pathway on, and that one little rabbit hole is to find out what they mean by, you know, if we don't have a legal entity identification number, then how can they be dragging us into court in the first place?
No, and the other point, if they drag us into court, they should just say, sign here and leave.
Yeah. I don't know. I still think I ought to get something for loaning my credit. I apologize, but if I got to go get
No, we ain't apologizing because I agree to that too, man. I mean, I like to have a new truck. I would like to have that. Doesn't mean I need to Taj Mahal. But, I mean, you know, we don't have to go out and get all these 300-400 acre places. We live in a city, and that way we know our forests are growing up again, and we know we can go camping, we can go hunting. We could go fishing.
May I?
Go ahead, may I?
Well, you know, in government ground right now, it's against the law to go looking for mushrooms if you're going to sell them commercially. You can't go.
Oh, no,
mushrooms.
that's the whole point. You can't sell them commercially, but you can get them and collect as many as you want for your home.
Or you can buy them and raise them.
Oh, no, I do that, and I've ran across that because, see, I've been notoriously known for selling mushrooms in Lincoln County. Okay? Literally, I sold to the restaurants in this county for 10 years. Okay? And everybody would call me up in the restaurant industry and ask me, hey, Ed, you got any? And shit, no, but I'll make sure you have some by the afternoon.
Yeah, but
I go pick it for them. I go pick 10, 20 pounds for these people, 15 pounds.
Shouldn't we, the people, have the right to go hunt mushrooms on our forest for ourselves, and if we want to sell a few of them?
Absolutely.
Well.
Oh, no, I'm on that page, and like I said, I've done it, and I've do it, and I've done that where they try to come after me, and people say, well, you need to get a license, a permit. And I said, I'm native. You don't tell me to get a permit on my soil.
Here's something.
And I've got this actually was printed in the News Times, and this is when the closed the Oregon Coefficient down in 2004. That would have been 2005 when I came out with the mushrooms. Because that's when that Japanese family ate the mushrooms and died, and everybody made a big deal with the Department of Justice and all this, and people shouldn't pick mushrooms, and the states were talking about trying to make it a statute. If you got caught picking mushrooms, you're going to jail, because that Oriental family up in Portland picked out all their strychnine, the red caps, with the strychnine white tabs. And so they fed that. The only one who didn't die was the kids that didn't eat the soup. Everybody else in the family completely died. That was 7 years ago. And so, no, I still fought on that one. I told them to shove it because I'm going to go pick shrooms.
Hey,
you know?
Boy, down,
Go
boy.
ahead.
Down, boy. Put the bone down for a bit. I'm just going to suggest, this is a suggestion, that instead of selling, why don't you trade? I've got a few mushrooms. You've got some paper I need. I need some toilet paper, so give me a few of those dollars.
That's true, too. You can do that, yes. And then we got solutions.
It's a barter. That's a trade. You're not selling. Legality-wise, that's permissible, technically.
Well, it leads back to the coffee bean jeans situation.
Yeah, one coffee bean equals $1.
Yeah, Judge Sheehan was on that. That was out of Maryland State. I remember that one well, 1982.
I remember it well because I was going to work for Montgomery Ward's in their auto shop, and the manager, and I knew the manager too because I went to school with him. And he looked at me and goes, Ed, I can't tell you yay or nay. He goes, I don't even know if we're going to be open next week.
Yep.
You know, so this is the one thing that, you know, you got to pay attention. And like I said, it all comes down to the wording. So, and this is the one thing that we've got a blessing on this stuff. You know, that's the one thing. We do have a real blessing on what's going on. And I mean, I'm having a blessing because I'm having the fun putting this stuff out as I'm running for office. You know, especially putting out these numbers, the birth certificate structure, the structure where the mother vanted her child with the state administrative rules. You can't imagine how much fun I'm realistically having this putting out with the media and stuff. You know, because now people are going, what? Because, I'm running for office, and they can sit there and say, well, that doesn't mean anything. But okay, but it's in their face. Oh, shit, what?
Well, throw in the hook on how they get you on the birth certificate. If you look above mother's name, it might say informant. What's an informant? Someone who informs on a criminal. So I was a criminal before I could even crawl. I was a criminal before I could create a gallon of caca. and then you're a foreigner on top of it. So, that's the hook when it comes to that birth certificate. And, let's think about that. Who helped out on that? The doctor. Okay. When you come to port, what do? You dock. There you are. You're a ship. Okay. Yep. When you go into court, you're on the docket or you're on the dock ET.
Right.
Okay. So, there's the twist on the word for dock. Okay. And then that's the other one: lease agreement, contract, and documents.
That's why I don't use the word document. I use the word, what is that called? Instruments. Because an instrument sings. That means it has value.
If I may.
Go ahead.
Chief, so basically, by their legal system, and I'm going to tie it into that nice little fantasy book that's there, in my opinion, it's a fantasy book, but so you were born a criminal, aka you were born a sinner.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I mean,
yes, indeed.
You see the way they use that book to try to control the laws or the statute codes, administrative rules they're trying to.
Absolutely correct. And on top of it, what that does is because they use your mother's maiden name, that makes you a bastard, which means the state becomes your bastardized father, or how do they word that? It'll come to me. It begins with two P's. What is it? Piatre. Pios Piatre, I believe it is. That's where they become the parent. Okay, and that's what leads back to also the GMEI and the LEI situation. Okay, so yes, they're using that book to kind of goat rope you into the situation, which in reality your covenant's supposed to be, which covenant's supposed to be a contract, is supposed to be with the Creator, not with them. But then again, they did murder an innocent person. When you really think about it, they called him Jesus. Believe it or not, it was Yeshua ben Yusef, because Yusef was actually the Joseph meaning in Hebrew. Joseph is the English meaning. So you see, once again, yes, you've been kind of tricked into a contract without consent. But thank you for bringing that up.
Mm-hmm. But see, I mean, it's funny when you step out of the movie and you really watch this production.
Yeah.
Because it is a production. That's what people don't get. It's a production of what's going on in life.
Well, and the other one is the natives actually call this land Turtle Island. And how many discs are on the back of a turtle? 32. Does this sound familiar, like a 33-degree situation?
Right.
So 32 and below is cold, 33 and above is warm.
Yeah, that's the one thing. All this comes down to numbers and words.
Well, it does directly, come straight back to the Roman Catholic Church, cult, Vatican, whatever you want to call it, because that's exactly what he was referring to there.
Mm-hmm.
The King James Version or whatever version, you have the the New International Version, which if you take a look at the words and compare them with the King James Version, they're not going to come out. If you take a 74 book and take a one from 1932, they're not going to be the same. If you take a Freemason's Bible and put it next to another Bible, it's not going to be the same.
Yeah. It all changes, and that's the one thing, because they all have their own insignias. Go ahead.
They're all different because they're all fakes, false corporation books that are copyrighted. You have to have the original 1611 King James Bible if you were going to use the King James. It has about 150 pages more in it than all of these new copyrighted Bibles. And the original 1611 is not copyrighted. It's got the Book of Tobit in it at 412, which is very important to understand that none of these new King Jameses have. Plus, there's a lot of other things in the original King James.
Well, the other one through history studying is they always destroyed the ones before it, so you couldn't reference them. And in the original Bible, There were no numbers. They were actually diaries of people who walked the face of the earth or the soil to begin with to see. And then they wrote them in a diary fashion. For the first 300 to 400 years after it was originally written, the Bible didn't have numbers. It didn't have quotations. It was the personal thoughts, you know.
Yeah.
So,
and the original King James prefaces that, or most of them do. They go back before 1611. Another the books that preface it about 300, 400, 500, 600, 700 years.
Well, the one I like is if you take a look at 1666. What happened in 1666? Three things actually came about. Okay, one of the ones was England burned to the ground on purpose. And then they created the Cesta KV Trust in 1666. Now, if you actually
wait a minute. Didn't that just happen a couple of years ago? They tried to burn it to the ground again and started that again, asking everybody for financial help?
Oh, of course. And then the other one is, if you look at your non-alphabetical Bible, King James Version, it's 1,566 pages. But if you look at your alphabetical one, it's exactly 1,666 pages.
Isn't that a bit ironic that 1666 number keeps coming up? And then I believe if you look at one of the codes in our situation in this country, 1.666 leads to a certain situation. I think it's 1.06 to 1.666 has some valued information. I forget what it is. I'll have to look it up. Of course, you know how that is, Ed. I only have like a gazillion things on electronic devices and written down.
No, just one or two.
Hey, didn't Trump get $6.2 trillion? That's 666.
Yes, exactly.
Well, yeah, so, that's the other point. I love it because, you know, and all these people are bitching. Well, Trump donated his salary again back to the food share. You know, since he's been in office, he hasn't claimed one check.
No, he's not going to take their blood money.
That's right. He knows what the people, you know, the hoo-hoos of the hoo-hoo-hoos know why he's in office.
Well, in reality, if you took the money, then it would actually be a contract, an invisible contract, and that's another one people should look up. There's actually a book that goes on about invisible contracts that leads to your licenses, your birth certificate, anything that you sign for, your social security number, you know, insurance. It all leads back to invisible contracts. They're not going to, you know, and that's why you've got to pay attention to the bottom line of the contract. And then you can always modify the contract. Modify it for yourself. That's what he said. You know, you are the creator of your destiny. Okay, so if you're
that's what I did with mine. See, my Social Security, because I'm disabled, they started playing games and trying to steal my money, shut me down, because I've already been through that, you know, and I've had the local guys file to shut me down. So they started doing that to me again, so I filed back treason charges on the employees of that, and all of a sudden I don't hear from nobody. And when I go into all these little things, services, you know, everybody keeps going, well, you can get food stamps, you can get that, you can get all this stuff. And I'm like, I have one contract because if I go get the other handouts, I'm fucked.
Well,
okay? I'm not going to take that. I only got the one because I should have got a settlement, basically my credit card, for the rest of my life to do whatever I wanted to buy and do whatever I wanted. I know it. They know it. We had this argument in the public hearings in 2002.
Well, like we discussed the other day, you've got to go beyond the bond situation, because once the state makes a bond, that allows the government, the federal government, to create 10 more.
Yeah. So
you see, if your bond's at 1,000, they've created 10 more on top of that. It's actually 10,000.
Right.
See, and there's a way to actually, you know, relieve yourself of that. And that's what we're trying to, you know, comprehend and get out to people, is how to actually work this system so it benefits you in the private, you know, and so that they have whatever they want, you know. I mean, they're still going to trade you unless we can figure out a way to stop that. And that's
we want them to trade, because the thing with that is the contract we had with the British government in the Civil War is so that way they would protect us and we would protect them. That's what this is part of, that structure. So we want them, if we got an issue, we walk away, but we don't have to be being forced into jail, you know, under the debt slave shit of the 14th Amendment that was passed. You know?
Well,
I mean,
what's
it
your
was never
point?
passed or ratified. There was no slavery. And then you got the other people saying, well, we had slavery going back before the Civil War. And I'm going, no, you had it in certain areas, but it was not legal or lawful because that was foreign countries from foreigners that came to this soil. So you got to realize those are foreigners coming to this soil. They didn't ask permission from the original landowner or the soil owner or the original man on the land. They didn't ask permission.
Okay, came
May I?
Yeah.
The gentleman wanted to know how to get out of this or correct it. What you have to do is file a UCC1 on yourself, and or your children. And I've done this successfully. And you have a superior lien. And if you have to go to court, then, you know, if anyone, any government official, you just say, hey, you have a superior lien to this UCC1, bring it forward. Otherwise, I'm out of here. And I've taken people government jobs for making claims against people just using the UCC1 and having the superior lien on the Social Security number. You got to own yourself.
That's right.
Yeah, I comprehend that. You know, that's in the process of what we're doing. Mine was that I was right at about the position of doing that, and then I got yanked by an overzealous corporational agent. And really that needs to be discussed also because they work for a corporation. It's not lawful.
Well, I know that, but they want to keep those paperwork in their system. They want to be greedy. That's all it is about greed. That shows you the greed of these people.
Yep.
They're not your friends. You know, I get people all the time, you don't know this caseworker, and this caseworker is my friend, and then why? If that caseworker is your friend, then how come your children are still in custody? There's a reality check for people, huh? I mean, you can't tell you how many times I've had people say, women tell me, you know, that the caseworker is my friend, she's doing her job, she's trying to help me get my kids back. Shit, man, she ain't your friend. If she was your friend, your kids would have been home already.
Well, on the one before, too, with the guy that was discussing the UCC1. Now, the other one that I've been told is that you also have to do an age of majority claim, and then you also have to do an identity claim for status. So...
Well, that's the whole point. We're living all this stuff. We have all this stuff in our hands. Now we're figuring out how to use it. And this is the next step, putting the other pieces together, because I got the other codes. And so I've got the codes, the administrative rules, and putting this together, and I haven't had a chance to put all that together to put it so it's clerical order. I already asked Chief. We're working on a couple things of putting stuff together so we could try to put it together so we get out to you.
Yep. We're still working on it. You know, we're still researching. You know how I am. It's just like you. We don't want to cross that T or dot that I until we're positive we need to cross that T and dot that I. So, you know, and don't put a little happy face above the I.
Yeah.
But anyhow,
put a target on it.
I got to jump off, too, because of power issues. Because, you know, they didn't want to turn the power back on up here. We're having some discussions about that.
All right. Well, I'll catch up with you later. And then we'll see. Or if anybody's got anything else to add, we might end up just calling it a night right now at this point. I don't know.
Oh, no, I think they should discuss things. I'll review everything, in the next couple of days anyway. We always review our situation so we can learn from that, learn from the discussions and what people put in so that we can look up more things, Well,
and that's the whole point, because every time people put something in, we got another thing, the piece of the puzzle. And then also, too, like I said, I'm running for office, so I got 300 emails still to do myself here pretty soon. So, I mean...
Well,
I got to keep these emails going out to the businesses because these guys are paying advertising on the radio and TV. So my advertising is finding the business emails and emailing them.
Well, I want to apologize to the producer. I noticed he was right. My button on 999 kicked in. I guess that was because someone was trying to remind me of the 9999 form, which is the LEI or GMEI form.
Oh, yeah.
So, and that's, once again, 1099A, 1099C, 1099 OID. It's all about form. So, but y'all enjoy yourselves this evening, and I'll catch up to you in a couple days, Ed.
All right.
Dean, I'll probably give you a call in a little bit. Peace.
All right. Later. So anybody else would like to add anything else this evening? So we did get in quite a bit of good stuff tonight. And this is the point, putting these things together, and then we got to put together how, because we know the stuff now, we got to look at the writing numbers of how the city and the counties are using our numbers from the jail and the city. Because when we pay our water and electricity bill, we know that they're getting it on both sides. They're writing it off because when you did your water bill, I remember the days nobody used to give a Social Security number out. And then all of a sudden they started asking you for a Social Security number on your water bill. So that just putting stocks on that. Because all they do with taxes is reinvest it. Nothing gets paid. That's what amazes me. People think things get paid. Nothing gets paid. It's all a write-off. So anybody else would like to add anything?
Hey, Ed, I'd like you to say a little bit about territorial jurisdiction.
Okay. Well, and that's the one thing, because people will go to state, and it's like, no, you want to go to the original territory descriptions that we had before we became states, because that was done based on the regions of the native treaties and the native Indians. Now, this was before white men started doing this stuff with territories or states and stuff. Because the Indian nations all had territories that they called back way before the white man got here. And so when you start realizing that how we've been indoctrinized and missing out the point here, because I talk territories when I do my talk shows, and I do that with paper. And that's the one thing you want to do that. And the other point is put non-combatant on your paperwork. Also, too, put, you're a civilian. You're not been part of this war. And if you're flying the American flag, that's the war flag. So you're saying you're at war. And remember, you flying that flag on your car, your house, or whatever, you're at war. That's what that flag really means. And if there's a golden fringe flag, we know what that means. But when you fly the American flag, you're saying you're at war. That's what you're telling the world. And people know that flag. I mean, shit. They flew that flag when they went and killed Sitting Bull and everybody. So things haven't changed, and that's the whole point. When they do this, the state structure, and people are going, well, the state has the right to be its own government. No, it does not. It has to go by the Constitution and the Indian treaties. And I have the administrative rules, and I have it from the Superior Court that states it. And they don't want you to realize that the Indian treaties are the actual law of the land. And that goes back to the structure when they put in the Constitution, because the Constitution had to be approved by the treaties and the territories. And that goes back, this is actually in history, but they took a lot of this stuff out of the history books and the TV shows. I mean, 1 year they're running how Adolf Hitler won the World War, and then next year they're saying how, World War II, we won. There was never a winner in the World War II or World War I. It was a ceasefire. The War of Mexico, that was a ceasefire. Nobody won it. So, did that help? So this is the thing, is that wording is so apparent on how you do your wording, what you say, how you mean it. That's why I write non-combatant. I do not use surnames. I don't write my stuff in capital letters or small letters. I write it in small letters. Because I don't need to play their game. I'm not going to participate. Some people say that's not proper English, which I've had people say, well, you write and that's not proper English, or that's not proper writing. Well, it's not proper writing because I don't go by the Queen of England's writing or the King of England's writing techniques. You know, I'm supposed to be able to write myself my way, not follow somebody else's directions. And that's what we've really lost today. And being you. You know. So, anybody else like that? Anything else? Okay, with that, then I guess we'll call it an evening tonight. I still got to go back, and I'll pull the last 4 shows up, and because I got to take a couple hours and put some information on each of the other videos. So I'll be tagging some of this stuff in the videos. I'll be tagging, especially to the birth certificate structure in this with the House Resolution and the Banking Act. I mean, like I said, putting all this stuff together, and now you're putting it together. Now the next step is figuring out, and we'll start figuring out, because we know about how they're writing it off on the public trust, and they're writing it off on the public detainer. So then the next point is putting these pieces together, so then once we get that, then we know how to use the 1099 forms correctly without going to jail like all these other people have set all these people up and, put them in that position. Once we start being successful, then that way we can start going forward. But the main thing is we have to work with our elected and public employees because they're going to do a job to do our service to us. They want peace of living, and we want peace of living. So that's the point. We got to work together with these people, and that's why I'm running for office. I'm putting this stuff out all about the Constitution, the war treaties, what the structure is. These people are like, well, Ed, how do you know this stuff in history? I've been teaching it. I've been preaching it. Some of it even got from the Oregon State House and Senate. So, like I said, I didn't go to school. I lived hard knocks. I spent 15 years at the House and Senate. I read these things. I listened to senators. I listened to the attorneys. I talked to them. I sat down. That was my education primarily. I didn't go to college and university. I sat down with the guys who went to college and universities and listened to them. So, I mean, if you're going to win a war, you got to know how to play the battle game. It's a chess game. So, anyhow, with that, we'll call it an evening, and may the Creator look over you. May Mother Earth and the Creator and the Great Spirit feed you. And that's the one thing. Don't forget to get some seeds, grow food, start throwing seeds around wherever. Just so we start seeing that and people start seeing food around. Then this way, when they start trying to do this shit, next year, because remember, this shit, they're talking about Thanksgiving in December for 100% shutdown. What better way to freeze people out? Which better way to have people go insane? What better way to have the craziness to happen? So, I mean, you look at it. It's coming up. We're going through this right now. That's obvious what's coming up. Okay? I mean, writing's on the wall. They've written the books over it, but everybody keeps going, how do we do it? Well, we're teaching you how to survive. Anyhow, I'll have a good evening.
Thanks, Ed.
Thank you for listening to Ed Show. It is currently Saturday, May 2nd, 2020, and we'll catch you next week.